Is Singapore getting a bit too squeezy for us? Or do we actually have the infrastructure to keep up with it? Okay, so let's take a look at this. So I think based on the recent news that you have heard based on CNA, Singapore population rises to historic high of 6.04 million, mainly due to growth in non-resident population. This is the first time the country population has already exceeded 6 million. I don't know why this news took so long to come out, but actually when I checked the population data in Q1, it has actually crossed 6.02 million back then already. So here is a quick breakdown of the total population of 6.04 million. You can see Singapore citizens comprising of 3.64 million, PRs 0.54 million, non-residents 1.86 million, with the respective breakdown of the respective passes. We have an increase in total population in Singapore by residential status. From 2020 to 2024, our population rose from 3.52 to 3.64 for citizens. PR population rose from 0.52 million to 0.54 million, as well as non-residents rose from 1.64 million to 1.86 million. That probably explains why your rental has been so high. So of course, if you would like to know more in detail regarding this newspaper article, please head to the website itself to check it out. Alright, but today we are going to talk about how does this relate to our real estate. This also will give an indicator of the demand in terms of real estate. So like what I said just now, the increase in terms of non-citizens also contributed to the rental demand over the past few years, and that explains why our rental shot up. But because of the COVID situation itself, not much new supply of units were completing because of the manpower issues. So there were some delays in terms of construction, so on and so forth, and that is the main reason why with lower supply of completion of unit but yet higher demand due to the increase in non-citizen population, which pushed the demand up very high, which also pushed your rental prices up higher. But let's go back to who is going to buy from me today. That is our clear demand. So if we look at the citizen population from 2019 to 2024, it increased from 3.5 million to 3.64 million, 140k increase in terms of population for citizens. And if we take the last 3 years, increase from 3.5 to 3.64, basically about 140k lah. And if we look at PR's population, based on the last 3 years, they increased about 50,000. So what does this number actually mean to you? If we add both of these numbers together, we will actually get about 190k. So there is this Singapore average household number that we use to gauge how many people are staying on average in one household. This number has dropped steadily from 2021 to 2023, from 3.15 to 3.11. So in order to determine how many units do we need, we take 190k, because why? Citizens and PRs, these are probably the people that will be buying houses, divided by 3.11, we will get 52,733. This is the number of units that we will need to have to cater to this population growth. And if we look at the number of private units that are completing between 2024 all the way until after 2027, we only have 46,000 units completing within this time frame. You may argue that, oh, there are also BTOs and HDBs. Yes, it's true, but we cannot be living off the edge with the demand and supply being one-to-one net off. What? Am I right to say that? And don't forget, the Singapore White Paper, they are still keeping on track to their Singapore population goal of 6.9 million. If we use that to calculate and reverse engineer, to hit a 6.5 million population, we will need 24,000 homes per year. Applying the same formula, are we even creating that many units or not? Now, we move on. To hit 6.9 million population, we will need to be creating 46,000 homes per year. Are we even hitting those numbers with our BTO supplies or not? So in that sense, to answer your key question, is there anybody that is going to buy from me? Prices are so high right now. This is the key answer to that. But of course, we have to make sure that our property prices remain affordable, and that is the main purpose of cooling measures. 18 rounds of cooling measures have went past. It is to make sure affordability is kept in check, housing prices are aligned with our income. And this is the chart which was derived from UOB, and we can see from here the nominal GDP value versus the URA property price index. So when we talk about GDP, it is also largely related to our income, and that's where they draw the relation. So we can see from here overall throughout this chart, what we want to take note is 2010 to 2014, before the cooling measures enter. You will realize that the affordability, the income and the property prices are actually intersecting with each other, meaning to say the property prices are actually costing higher and higher back then, and affordability was an issue. But after the 2014 cooling measures, you will realize the gap between the nominal GDP and the property price index actually widened, and today it has reached the widest point that we have ever seen in history. Meaning to say, we have a very high affordability in terms of our income versus housing prices. Of course, maybe you may feel so or may not feel so, but this is the cold hard statistics that we are getting from the market. Now moving forward, this is the wealth and net worth. We can see from here Singapore consumers or Singapore population actually has low leverage but yet very high quality. I'm going to zoom in into this chart down here where you see the grey line actually represents the assets, the red line represents the net worth, and you can see the liabilities is the blue line below. So in terms of liabilities, we have 0.36 trillion. In terms of net worth, we have 2.86 trillion. In terms of assets, we have 3.22 trillion. Can you see how asset-rich and cash-rich Singaporeans are and how low liabilities we have? In fact, Singapore is probably one of the only few countries that makes you pay 25%, a quarter of your property, in cash and CPF. Your capital is already locked in the property. Meaning to say, it is a safe environment in Singapore because they reduce leveraging, they reduce over-leveraging, a scenario of over-leveraging, and ensuring that the capital is kept in Singapore's market so that it is not so fluid and being taken out anytime they want. It reduces the volatility inside the market as well. All in all, is to make sure that Singapore is a safe environment for you to enter in terms of property and a safe and sustainable market, and that's what the cooling measures is for. Now comes the key important question. If based on a 6.9 million target, what if we don't have enough supply? Number one, the prices will skyrocket. But number two, definitely the government is here to keep the market sustainable, and that's what the 18 rounds of cooling measure is for. If you actually realize there is another pattern, every time before every cooling measure there should be an oversupply, but because of the manpower's issues arise from the COVID situation, that's why we couldn't sell lands back then, and that's why there is this little gap at this current moment that we are facing, that somehow there isn't that much supply to go around in the market. But of course, we can always trust the government to continue introducing more supply to cater to the demands of the market, and that's how they keep the prices sustainable. They also don't want later not enough supply, then the prices skyrocket. Whatever measures that they put in goes to a waste. What they want to do is to always keep market sustainable so that there is little fluctuation. You buy into a very safe environment in terms of Singapore market. So for those who have the constant question of whether who is going to buy from me or buy from us, this is your answer. But most importantly, what is so beautiful about the Singapore market is we are no longer reliant on foreign demand. Before COVID, 75% of our transactions are by local demand, 25% of our transactions are by foreigners. But in today's market, and if you dig deeper in terms of the statistics, 95% of our transactions are transacted by locals, 5% by foreigners. So in that sense, it is an even safer environment, but more importantly, when you have majority of your market share driven by local demand, it ensures a self-sustainable ecosystem within the Singapore real estate market.